Let's start with our first news. Ciryl Gane responds to Tom Aspinall cheating comments. Tom Aspinall's eyes at UFC 321, and we haven't heard much from him about the incident. The same can't be said about Tom. If you remember, Tom accused Gane multiple times of cheating. And once after watching the replay to their fight, he said that any time Ciryl felt his pressure, he was trying to poke his eyes. Then in a tweet, he said that he has dirty fingernails and said that he'll be back to beat him soon and called him a cheat. Well, now Gane has finally responded to Aspinall's cheating comments. He said that Tom is over-exaggerating it, and even the fan base knows it. Here's a full quote. Aspinall's communication strategy was terrible. Sometimes it's better not to say anything. These things happen. You don't need to overdo it. Exaggerated, the girl was like, acting like he can't drive anymore. He said so many things and spent so much time trying to accuse me of who knows what. It just didn't make sense anymore. At a certain point, even his own fans must have been like, wow, man, that's enough. Relax. These things happen. We've got your back, but you should calm down a bit. But yeah, that was his communication. I wasn't affected at all. Social media is secondary. Many believe that even Aspinall's own fans got sick of his complaining Islamachev wants fight with Carlos Prates. There's been a lot. This situation has sparked major debate in the MMA community, with fans divided over the accusations and the response from Ciryl Gane. Many argue that emotional reactions on social media often escalate small incidents into bigger controversies that overshadow actual fight performances and professional respect between athletes inside the octagon. As the rivalry continues to be discussed online, both fighters remain focused on their future paths in the division and the broader heavyweight landscape of the sport moving forward. Overall tensions remain high between both camps after the fight. Narrative move on to another news. With our first story today, we are talking about Khamzat leaking training footage with Sean Strickland. Welcome back to the MMA Zone fight. Week has been absolutely chaotic, and we are just a couple days away from the big clash, and there has been no shortage of drama leading into it. One of the talking points is Khamzat Chimaev releasing old training footage featuring Sean Strickland during their past sparring sessions. This comes after Strickland repeatedly claimed that Khamzat prefers weaker sparring partners so he can look dominant in training sessions. Those were his words, not ours, and the comments clearly added more fuel to the fire. In response, Khamzat decided to post the footage on X showing him training alongside Strickland from their earlier camp. He even captioned the post with the phrase, "I am bullying weak people." Now, the clip itself did not show anything overly dramatic or controversial, but fans quickly turned it into a joke, calling it a teaser trailer for their potential fight. Some even said it felt more like promotional content than actual tension between the two fighters. Despite the online banter, both athletes continue to prepare intensely as expectations for fight night continue to rise. The atmosphere surrounding this matchup has only grown more intense, with fans closely watching every update and every post from both camps as the countdown continues. Attention now shifts toward how both fighters will perform. Once they finally step into the octagon, with all eyes locked on what happens next, the tension between both camps has also sparked debates across social media, with fans split on whether the footage was meant as a serious statement or just playful. Promotion Khamzat seems unfazed by the criticism, while Strickland continues to double down on his claims about training methods and partner selection. Both fighters have remained vocal in interviews and online exchanges, adding even more intrigue. To an already heated buildup, analysts believe this psychological warfare could play a major role in how the fight unfolds inside the cage. Fans are now eagerly waiting for fight night as speculation continues to grow around both athletes and their preparations. The buzz around this matchup shows no signs of slowing down, with every new clip or statement adding more attention to what is already shaping up to be one of the most talked about fights of the year. The MMA world is watching closely as both fighters continue their final preparations, ahead of a highly anticipated showdown, and the energy surrounding this rivalry remains at an all-time high inside the MMA community worldwide today. Now watching move on to another news with our next story, focusing on Belal Muhammad's prediction for Khamzat versus Sean Strickland. Muhammad believes Khamzat is going to walk through Strickland in their upcoming fight, and says the matchup heavily favors him based on recent performances. With how accurate Belal has been with his predictions recently, many fans feel it is hard to bet against his analysis. He also suggested that Strickland might be intentionally trying to provoke chaos before fight night, possibly to create excuses or disrupt the matchup. According to Belal on his YouTube channel, he said, "I think we're going to get a lot of talking. Chaos, stupidity, racism, and lies mostly coming from one side, especially from the Strickland corner. He said Strickland will likely say outlandish things and chase headlines trying to provoke reactions from Khamzat's team. Belal added that such behavior could even be an attempt to get someone from Khamzat's team to react physically, which would potentially risk the fight being cancelled. He believes Strickland might later use that as an excuse to avoid the fight, claiming things like the fighters are too crazy or unfit to compete. However, Belal also made it clear that if the cage door closes on fight night, he expects a violent outcome. He described the ideal scenario as blood, tears, and broken bones, all coming from one side of the fight. Belal expressed confidence that Khamzat will dominate and walk through his opponent if everything goes as expected. And as for Khamzat's last opponent, Du Plessis' attention now shifts to his previous performance and how it factors into current discussions. The discussion continues to grow across the MMA community as fans debate styles, predictions, and psychological warfare, leading into one of the most anticipated fights of the year. Both camps remain vocal online, with supporters dissecting every statement and clip released ahead of fight night. Analysts suggest that such mind games could play a significant role in shaping performance once the cage door closes with emotions running high. Both fighters continue final preparations, aiming to deliver a statement inside the octagon as anticipation builds. The MMA world waits to see whether Belal's prediction proves accurate, or if Strickland manages to defy expectations in a high-pressure showdown that has captured global attention. The build-up continues to intensify as both athletes move closer to fight night, with every interview and prediction adding more fuel to an already heated rivalry inside the division. Fans remain divided, but interest continues to grow rapidly as the matchup draws closer. Every update only increases hype around this massive potential clash in the division worldwide scene. Move on to another news with our next story about Islam Makhachev wanting fight with Carlos Prates next. There have been a lot of rumors lately about who could be Islam's next opponent, the biggest one being Ian Gary, with Ian even teasing fans and saying that he started camp already. Well, in a recent interview, Islam shut down the rumor about his next opponent being Ian and said that he hasn't talked to any UFC officials yet about who he's going to fight next. He also said that there are 4 possible opponents the UFC could match him up against, but there's one person that is the most exciting for him while reacting to Carlos Prates' win last Saturday. Here's what Islam had to say. Apparently, Madalena could not collect himself. Maybe he is fully recovered from the last loss he couldn't find. His range Prates did an excellent job. The UFC haven't informed me about it yet, but there's been a lot of rumors about me fighting Ian Gary next. Yet I haven't talked with any UFC officials about this fight, so I can't tell for sure who is the next contender. I've got 3 to 4 possible matchups. Kamaru Usman is also there, Ian Gary, Morales, Bratz. 4 of them, plus Shayop, might be number 5. They're all expecting a title shot. I definitely need to fight whoever the UFC matches me up against. Also, there's a couple of matchups which would determine the real contender. I think Bratz has got the hype now. He's talked about much more now, so I think a fight with him would be the most interesting. And as for Islam's last opponent, Du Plessis' attention now shifts to his previous performance and how it factors into current discussions, the community leading into one of the most anticipated fights of the year. Both camps remain vocal online, with fans dissecting every statement and clip. Ahead of fight night, analysts suggest mind games could play a major role in shaping performance once the cage door closes with emotions high. Both fighters continue final preparations, aiming to deliver a statement inside the octagon as anticipation builds the weights to see whether Belal's prediction proves accurate or if Strickland defies expectations in a high-pressure showdown. Capturing attention, build-up continues intensify as athletes move closer to fight night. Interview and prediction to heated rivalry inside division. Fans remain divided, but interest continues grow as matchup draws closer. Hype around massive clash scene. Ilya said in new interview with ESPN that the UFC's original plan was to have him fight Islam if Justin Gaethje steps in now. Move on to another news with our next story. MMA community goes off on Dana White for footage. Being a UFC fighter comes with many benefits like sponsors and recognition, but one thing it doesn't have benefits for is healthcare. You would think that being in a sport that involves so much physical damage that they would obviously include covering you and your family's health care for life. But it doesn't. Just ask Jim Miller, who currently holds the record for most fights in UFC history, in a new interview with MMA Junkies. Mike Bond Jim detailed just how expensive medical bills can get, especially since his son has a rare form of cancer, and while he didn't directly call out the UFC or Dana White, he did say that he pays a fortune on medical coverage for his family because there's no healthcare coverage from the UFC since fighters are considered independent contractors. Here's what Jim had to say. I've been paying for, health insurance for my family for quite a while now, and we pay a fortune. And, some of those fights are still ongoing with the insurance company. But, for the most part, they pay for some of the big stuff. So we're still trying to make sure that they uphold their end of the bargain. My wife and we handle that. And, it's hard for me, there are a lot of the bills, right? Like every time you're paying that $50 copay and all this stuff and paying for parking and this and that and gas, down to Rutgers for his radiation, and it all adds up. Meanwhile, Dana White is paying off influencers' gambling debt like Aiden Ross on top of everything else. But his own fighters are struggling with real issues not forced upon them, which seems to be completely backwards. The MMA community went off on Dana White for not helping his own fighters. Here's what they had to say. Jim Miller, who has the most fights and wins in UFC history, struggles to pay his medical bills after 18 years of fighting for the organization, while Dana White bails out people like the Nelk Boys and Aiden Ross, who are already worth 8 to 9 figures. I'd hate to be a UFC fighter. Dana White is a piece of he gambles and loses enough money that he could fund healthcare for his fighters but doesn't utterly insane. Move on to another news with our next story. Heavy police presence at UFC 328. Plus, Strickland Reacts Media Day was yesterday, and during Strickland's interview, he reacted to the large police presence at the event. Seriously, they had cops guarding each entrance. So the UFC is clearly doing whatever it takes to avoid something from happening. Has the UFC given you any guidelines on what to do, not to do? I think the security is over, it's pretty not necessary, but how much money is the UFC making and spend on this fight? So if me and Khamzat go, Khamzat won't fight me. If he goes against one of his friends to try to fight me, no, they are in line to lose a lot of money. But again, this is, why we go back to Khamzat. And I say, he doesn't have dignity. When in my life, would you ever hear me say, I'm gonna jump you? Or my friends are gonna jump you? Or my religion's gonna jump you? Or I'm gonna do this? It's like, dude, you just act like a coward. This is why I don't wanna say you're like a dog, bro. I would never say that. If I have an issue with somebody, do you think my fans would ever jump Because my fans have dignity. They're men unlike you. Coward. And the tension at Media Day continued to grow as officials increased security across the venue, with multiple entrances being monitored heavily throughout the event fighters. And teams were kept under strict supervision to prevent any unexpected incidents, which added even more intensity to an already heated fight week atmosphere. Strickland made it clear he believes the situation is being overblown, but also insisted that he is not intimidated by the presence of security or any potential threats. As the UFC continues to build anticipation for UFC 328, fans are closely watching every interaction between fighters and officials as Fight Night approaches the rivalry, and backstage tension continue to dominate headlines. Analysts suggest that the increased security reflects how high stakes this matchup has become, with both fighters carrying massive attention from fans and media worldwide. The build-up shows no signs of slowing down as both camps continue to exchange strong statements ahead of what is expected to be one of the most talked about fights of the year across the MMA world, with attention fully locked on. UFC 328 Fight Week continues to escalate. Rapidly now concluded, move on to another news with our next story. Sean Strickland talks about how Khamzat beef started. Strickland decided to share a more detailed story of exactly what went down. According to him, this is how it started. I will give you factually how this started. There was a guy named John out of Colorado. Really nice kid. He came in very young. I think he's on the Contender Series now, but we wrestled, and I may have gotten the better of him in wrestling. I took a picture with him. Really nice kid, by the way. Really nice kid. He's gonna do very well in the UFC. And I made a joke and said, oh, I thought you'd wrestle better for a Chechen. And it was a joke because he's a friend anyways. Khamzat, we had this group chat. Khamzat sent me a message and pretty much called me a piece of, told me he was going to kill me and some other crazy things. So I told Khamzat, you can simply go yourself. And I said, Khamzat, I will meet you at this location at 5 p.m. The next thing he says is, oh, it was a misunderstanding. And from that moment, I just knew you're a coward. From that moment, I knew you had a lack of dignity. You're just not a man. And well, that moment led to this intense rivalry between the two, which is crazy to think about. In one of the interviews, Khamzat told the UFC that tensions had already been building before things escalated further. Both sides continued exchanging words online and through interviews, turning what started as a small misunderstanding into one of the most talked about rivalries in the division. The situation quickly gained attention from fans who began picking sides as both fighters doubled down on their statements. Strickland remained vocal about his version of events, while Khamzat kept responding through indirect comments and competitive energy inside training camps. Analysts believe this type of back and forth only added more pressure ahead of a potential showdown. As anticipation continues to grow, the MMA world remains focused on how and when this rivalry could eventually be settled inside the octagon, with both fighters showing no signs of backing down from their positions. As the story continues to develop, it has become one of the most discussed narratives in the sport today. Across the UFC landscape, tension between top contenders often fuels bigger fights, and this situation appears to be building toward exactly that kind of explosive matchup in the near future.